Captain Jiho stood at the window of his ship and stared at the massive station floating in space. It was bigger than any city on Earth. Lights covered its surface like stars, and hundreds of alien ships moved around it like insects around a lamp. This was the Galactic Council's home. And Jiho was about to meet the rulers of the galaxy. His hands were sweating inside his gloves. He had trained for this moment for 2 years, ever since Earth received the first message from the stars. The message had been simple. We know you are there. Come meet us now. Humanity was finally here. Captain, they're ready for us, said Lieutenant Quan from the communications station. The young officer looked nervous too. Everyone on the ship was nervous. Jiho nodded and straightened his uniform. Tell them we're coming aboard. The docking process took 20 minutes. When Jiho and his team stepped off their small Earth vessel, they entered a world they could barely understand. The corridor was so tall that Earth buildings could fit inside it. Strange creatures walked past them, some with too many legs, others floating in the air, and some that looked like living rocks. Ambassador Yuna walked beside Jiho. She was Earth's best diplomat, calm and smart. But even she looked small in this place. Behind them came Dr. Hannah, the scientist. And for security officers who tried not to stare at everything, a floating creature approached them. It looked like a jellyfish made of light. Follow, it said in perfect English, though it had no mouth. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. They walked for what felt like miles through corridors filled with aliens. Finally, they reached a massive chamber. It was shaped like a bowl, with seats rising up in circles. Thousands of aliens sat in those seats, all watching the humans enter. At the bottom of the bowl was a small platform. That's where the humans had to stand. As they took their positions, a booming voice filled the chamber. Humans of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Council. We represent 847 species across this galaxy. We have maintained peace and order for 50,000 of your years. The speaker was a creature that looked like it was made of crystal and shadow. It stood 3 times taller than any human. This was the Vreth High Chancellor, leader of the council. We welcome you to the galactic community, the Chancellor continued. However, membership requires responsibility. You must pay tribute like all civilized species. Ambassador Yuna stepped forward. Thank you for this meeting. We are honored to silence, the Chancellor said coldly. You are here to listen, not speak. Yuna's face went red, but she stepped back. Jiho clenched his fists but stayed still. Another alien stood up. This one looked like a giant insect covered in armor. I am War Leader Krell of the Krell Empire, it said in a grinding voice. Your world has resources we need. You have metals in your ground, water in your oceans, air we can breathe. Every new species pays tribute, a third alien added. This one was like a floating brain in a glass tank. It is the price of protection and knowledge. The Chancellor raised one crystal arm, and a holographic display appeared in the air. It showed Earth spinning slowly, then lists of numbers and percentages appeared around it. These are your tribute requirements, the Chancellor said. You will provide 40% of your military vessels and weapons. You will mine and deliver 60% of your rare minerals each year. You will follow all council laws without question. You will allow council inspectors on your world at any time. Dr. Hannah gasped quietly. Jiho felt his heart pounding. This wasn't a welcome. This was a robbery. Ambassador Yuna tried again. Perhaps we could discuss terms that are fair for both. There is no discussion, the war leader. Krell cut her off. Every species pays. The strong protect the weak. The weak pay for that protection. But we didn't ask for protection, Yuna said, her voice stronger now, the chamber filled with sounds. Some aliens were laughing. Others made clicking or buzzing noises. The Chancellor waited for silence. He did not need to ask, it said. The galaxy is dangerous. Pirates, rogue species, cosmic threats. Without the Council, your primitive world would be destroyed within years. We offer you survival. The cost is small compared to extinction. Small. Yuna said, you're asking for half our resources. 40% of military and 60% of minerals is not half, the brain creature said in a bored voice. Can your species not do simple math? More laughter echoed through the chamber. Jiho felt anger burning in his chest. They were mocking Earth like it was a joke. The Chancellor's form seemed to grow darker. You have 30 standard days to prepare your first tribute shipment. Our inspectors will arrive on Earth in 40 days to ensure compliance. This meeting is concluded. Ambassador Yuna said loudly. We need time to discuss this with our government. We need to 30 days, the Chancellor repeated. That is generous. Most species receive 10. Be grateful for our mercy. The war leader Krell stood again. Its voice became threatening. No species has ever refused the Council. Refusal means war. War means orbital bombardment of your cities. Your species will become slaves, mining resources on dead worlds. Choose wisely. The floor beneath the humans began to move, carrying them toward the exit. Yuna tried to speak again, but the Chancellor had already turned away. The meeting was over. The Council had spoken. They expected obedience. As they walked back to their ship, no one spoke. They passed more aliens who stared at them with what might have been pity or amusement or contempt. It was hard to tell with creatures so different from humans when they finally reached their vessel and the door sealed behind them. Yuna slammed her hand against the wall. They didn't even pretend to negotiate. We're not joining a council. We're being conquered. Dr. Hannah pulled up data on her tablet. I recorded everything. Those tribute requirements would cripple our economy. We'd be completely dependent on them within 5 years. Jiho sat in the captain's chair and started the undocking sequence. Earth was 3 weeks away at their best speed. They had to get home and warn everyone. The galaxy wasn't the peaceful place humanity had hoped for. It was run by bullies who took what they wanted and called it civilization. Set course for Earth, Jiho said quietly. Maximum speed. The president needs to know what we're facing. As their small ship pulled away from the massive station, Jiho looked back one more time. Somewhere in that giant structure, 847 species lived under the Council's rule. How many of them had said yes because they were afraid? How many wanted to say no, but didn't dare? The stars stretched out before them as they jumped to faster-than-light speed. Earth was waiting, and Earth had a decision to make. A decision that would change the galaxy forever. President Doyon sat at the head of the massive conference table and listened to the arguments. For 3 days, leaders from every nation on Earth had been debating. The room was full of angry voices, scared voices, and voices trying to sound brave. We have no choice, said the European Union representative, slamming his hand on the table. They have weapons we can't imagine. Ships that make ours look like toys. If we refuse, they'll destroy us. If we agree, we destroy ourselves, countered the African Coalition speaker. 60% of our rare minerals? We need those for our own technology, our own future. We'll become beggars on our own planet. Ambassador Yuna stood at a podium, repeating what she had seen. She had told the story so many times in the past 3 days that her voice was getting rough. They weren't negotiating. They were dictating. We're not joining a partnership. We're being absorbed. An Asian Alliance general spoke up. Can we fight them? Do we have any chance at all? All eyes turned to Commander Tay. He was the head of Earth's Space Defense Force, a military branch that had only existed for 5 years. He stood up slowly, his face serious. Fighting would be difficult, Tay said carefully. The Krell Empire alone has more warships than we have satellites. But difficult is not the same as impossible. The room erupted in questions. President Doyoon raised his hand for silence. Explain, Commander, Doyoon said. Tay activated a holographic display. Images of Earth's defenses appeared in the air. 5 years ago, when we first detected alien signals, we started preparing. We didn't know if first contact would be peaceful or hostile. We hoped for peace, but we planned for war. He zoomed in on orbital platforms around Earth. These aren't just communication satellites. They're weapons platforms. We've been building them in secret, disguised as civilian infrastructure. What kind of weapons? Asked a council member. Everything the council probably thinks we're too primitive to have, Tay said with a slight smile. Nuclear weapons, yes? But also railguns, plasma weapons, directed energy systems. We've been studying every piece of alien technology we could find or detect. We've reverse-engineered what we could and invented what we couldn't. Dr. Hannah stood up next to him. I need to show you all something important. She changed the holographic display to show charts and graphs. I've analyzed every piece of data we have on the Council species. I found a pattern. The graphs showed technological development over time for different species. Each line climbed steadily upward, showing advancement and innovation. But then, at a certain point, every line went flat. This is the Delphian species, Hannah said, pointing to one line. They were developing faster than light communication, quantum computing, zero-point energy. Then they joined the Council. For the last 2,000 years, their technology hasn't advanced at all. She switched to another graph. The Krell Empire. Masters of genetic engineering and biological weapons. They joined the Council 5,000 years ago. Since then, nothing new. They use the same weapons, the same ships, the same technology. What does this mean? President Doyen asked. It means the Council doesn't just take resources, Hannah said. They suppress innovation. Think about it. If species keep advancing, they might become threats to Council power. But if you keep them dependent, keep them from developing new technology, they stay under control forever. The room went silent. Everyone was understanding the real horror of the Council's offer. It wasn't just tribute. It was the end of human progress. A South American minister stood up. But if we refuse, they said they'd bombard our cities. Millions would die. Maybe billions? Maybe Tay said. Or maybe they're bluffing. Think about what they want from us. Our minerals, our resources, our labor. Dead humans can't mine minerals. Destroyed cities can't produce tribute. War is expensive, even for them. It's a big maybe to bet the human race on, someone said. President Dojan stood up. Everyone quieted down. He had been listening for 3 days without saying much. Now it was time for him to speak. My grandmother survived a war, Doyan said quietly. She told me something when I was young. She said the worst thing you can do when facing a bully is show fear. Fear makes them stronger. It makes them think they can take anything they want. He walked around the table, making eye contact with each leader. The Galactic Council is a bully. They've been doing this for 50,000 years because species keep saying yes out of fear. What happens if we say no? We might die, someone said. We might, Doyen agreed. But if we say yes, we definitely lose our freedom. We definitely lose our future. Our children will grow up as subjects of a foreign empire. Earth will become a resource colony. Is that living? An Indian representative spoke up. My people fought for independence once. It was hard. People died. But they believed freedom was worth fighting for. I think it still is. Others began nodding. The mood in the room was shifting. Tay spoke again. If we fight, we won't fight fair. The Council expects civilized warfare, whatever that means to them. They expect us to follow their rules. We won't. We'll use every dirty trick we can think of. Cyber warfare, biological weapons, kamikaze attacks, nuclear mines. Things they banned thousands of years ago because they're too cruel or too unpredictable. We never signed those treaties. Asymmetric warfare, a military advisor said, nodding. We can't match their strength, but we can make victory too costly, Dr. Hannah added. And we have one advantage. They think we're primitive. They're not taking us seriously. Surprise might be the best weapon we have. President Doyen returned to his seat. I'm going to call for a vote. But first, I want everyone to understand what we're choosing. If we say yes, Earth survives but loses its soul. We become slaves. If we say no, we might die, but we die as free people. And maybe, just maybe, we survive and show the rest of the galaxy that the Council can be defied. I want to add something, Ambassador Yuna said. When we were leaving the Council station, I saw the way some aliens looked at us. Not all of them were happy about the Council's methods. Some looked sad. Some looked guilty. I think there are species out there who hate the Council, but are too afraid to resist. If we say no, we might inspire them too. We might just get ourselves killed, a pessimist said. Maybe, Yuna admitted. But at least we'll have tried. President Do-Yan stood up. All in favor of accepting the council's terms, raise your hand. 3 hands went up. Only 3 out of 50 people in the room. All in favor of refusing the council's demands, raise your hand. The rest of the hands shot up. 47 people voting for defiance. Voting for freedom. Voting for a fight they might not win. Then it's decided, Do-Yan said. Commander Tay, prepare our defenses. Dr. Hannah, I want every piece of intelligence on the council you can find. Ambassador Yuna, we need to prepare our response. Yuna asked. A speech? A formal letter? Do-Yan smiled for the first time in days. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had made a hard choice and was at peace with it. No, he said. Something simpler. Something they'll understand perfectly. 1 word. What word? Someone asked. Do-Yan's smile grew wider. The only word that matters. No. Captain Jiho's ship approached the council station for the 2nd time. His crew was silent. Everyone knew this might be a one-way trip. Earth's answer was loaded into the communication system. 1 word that would change everything. They're hailing us, Lieutenant Quan said from the communication station. The Chancellor wants us in the main chamber immediately. Of course he does, Jiho said. He stood up and straightened his uniform. Tell them we're coming. And Quan, make sure our message is ready to broadcast on all council channels the moment I give the signal. It's ready, sir, Quan said. The young officer looked scared but determined. 1 word. Broadcasting to every screen, every speaker, every device in the station. Ambassador Yuna joined Jiho at the airlock. She was carrying a small data pad, though they both knew she wouldn't need it. Are you ready for this? She asked. Oh, Jiho admitted. But we're doing it anyway. They walked through the familiar corridors. This time, more aliens stopped to watch them pass. Word had spread that the humans were returning with their answer. Some aliens looked curious. Others looked amused, probably expecting humanity to submit like everyone else. The main chamber was even more crowded than before. It seemed like every species on the station wanted to watch this moment. Jiho and Yuna descended to the platform at the center. Above them, thousands of alien faces looked down. The Vreth High Chancellor materialized at the head of the chamber. Its crystalline form seemed to glow with confidence. Humans of Earth, you have returned. We trust you have prepared your tribute shipments. Jiho took a deep breath. This was it. We have prepared our answer, Chancellor. Excellent, the Chancellor said. Transmit your compliance documents. And we're not transmitting documents, Jiho interrupted. We're transmitting our answer. Just our answer. The chamber went quiet. The Chancellor's glow dimmed slightly. What do you mean? I mean, Earth has made its decision, Jiho said clearly. We're ready to share it with the entire council. War Leader Krell stood up from his seat. The massive insect creature's armor clicked as it moved. You waste our time with drama, human. Accept the terms or face the consequences. Oh, we understand the consequences, Yuna said. Her voice was steady and strong. We understand them very well. That's why our answer is so clear. The Chancellor raised 1 crystal arm. Enough theater. Deliver your acceptance speech so we can move forward. Jiho touched his communicator. Quan, broadcast Earth's response. All channels. Maximum volume. Broadcasting now, sir. Quan's voice came through. For a moment, nothing happened. Then every screen in the chamber lit up. Every holographic display activated. Every speaker came to life. The image of Earth appeared, the blue and green planet spinning slowly. And across every display, in every language the council used, 1 word appeared in massive letters. Nitrogen monoxide. The chamber exploded with sound. Hundreds of species began shouting at once. Clicks, roars, whistles, and sounds that had no human equivalent filled the air. Some aliens were standing up. Others were gesturing wildly. The war leader Krell's armor rattled with what might have been rage. Silence. The Chancellor's voice boomed through the chaos. the noise died down slowly. The Chancellor's form had turned dark, almost black. "You refuse?" "Yes," Jiho said simply. "We refuse. This is impossible," the brain creature in its tank said. Its voice sounded shocked. "No species refuses the Council. Not in 50,000 years, Yuna said with a slight smile. "We just did." The Chancellor moved closer to the edge of the platform, looming over the humans. "Do you understand what you've done? You have condemned your species to destruction. The Krell fleet will reduce your cities to ash. Your people will be enslaved. Your world will burn." "Maybe," Jiho said, "but we'll burn as free people." War Leader Krell stood again, his voice full of threat. "I will personally lead the attack on your pathetic world. You have 47 defense platforms and 89 patrol ships. I will bring 300 warships. Your resistance will last minutes. Then I guess we better make those minutes count," Jiho said. An alien from a species Jiho didn't recognize spoke up. It looked like a floating ball of tentacles. "This is madness. Your children playing at war? The Council has maintained peace for millennia. You will comply, or you will die." "Peace," Yuna said, and now her voice was angry. "You call this peace? Forcing species to give up their resources, suppressing their technology, making them dependent on you forever? That's not peace. That's slavery with better marketing." "You know nothing of galactic politics," the Chancellor said coldly. "We know enough," Jiho replied. "We know you've gotten fat and lazy off tribute payments. We know you keep species weak, so they can't challenge you. We know you're bullies who've forgotten what real opposition looks like." The chamber erupted again. Some aliens were shouting in anger. But Jiho noticed something interesting. Some aliens were quiet. Some were watching with what looked like interest, maybe even hope. The Chancellor's form grew larger, more threatening. "You have 24 hours to reconsider. The Krell fleet will depart for Earth at dawn. When they arrive, you will have one final chance to submit. If you refuse again, your species will be an example to every world in this galaxy. No one defies the Council." "We just did," Yuna said again. War Leader Krell's mandibles clicked together rapidly. "Prepare for war, humans. I will enjoy breaking your spirit." "Come and try," Jiho said quietly. The floor began moving again, carrying the humans toward the exit. But this time, they didn't look down. They kept their heads high, staring at the thousands of aliens around them. Some of those aliens looked angry. Some looked shocked. But some looked different, thoughtful, curious, maybe even impressed, as Jiho and Yuna walked back to their ship. They passed a small alien who looked like a bird made of metal. It was standing in a corner, watching them. As they passed, it made a soft, chirping sound. "What did it say?" Jiho whispered to Yuna. "I don't know," she admitted, but it sounded like approval. They reached their ship quickly. The moment the airlock sealed, Jiho ran to the bridge. "Quan, get us out of here." "Maximum speed to Earth." "Already plotted the course," Sir Quan said. "We can make it home in 16 days if we push the engines." "Push them," Jiho ordered. "Earth needs to know the Krell are coming." As the ship pulled away from the station and jumped into faster-than-light travel, Yuna sat down heavily in a chair. "We really did it. We told the Galactic Empire to go to hell." "We did," Jiho agreed. He was looking at the sensor readings. "Quan, what are you seeing on the Council communication channels?" Quan's eyes widened as he read his screens. "Sir, there are thousands of messages flying between Council worlds. Encrypted, but the volume is massive. It's like everyone is talking to everyone about us." Yuna asked. "Has to be," Quan said. "We just did something no one has done in 50,000 years." Jiho stared out at the stars streaking past. Somewhere behind them, the Krell fleet was preparing for war. Somewhere ahead, Earth was waiting. And somewhere in between, the galaxy was watching. "Send a message to Earth," Jiho said. "Tell them the Krell are coming. Tell them we have 2 weeks to prepare. And tell them," he paused, thinking of the right words. "Tell them that we said no, and the galaxy heard us." The message transmitted, racing toward Earth at light speed. In 2 weeks, the Krell would arrive. In 2 weeks, humanity would face its first real test against the powers of the galaxy. But for now, in this moment, humanity had done something impossible. They had looked at an empire of 847 species and refused to submit. They had said one word that changed everything, no, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Nari watched the sensor screen from Luna Base and counted the enemy ships. 300 Krell warships had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. They were massive, each one 10 times the size of humanity's largest vessel. Their weapons were already charging, energy signatures lighting up every sensor. "They're not even trying to hide their approach," said Commander Tay from his position at the tactical station. "They want us to see them coming." "It's psychological warfare," Nari said calmly. "They want us to panic and surrender before the first shot is fired." She activated the fleet-wide communication channel. "All units, this is Admiral Nari. Hold your positions. Wait for my command." On screens around the room, she could see Earth's defenses. 47 orbital platforms surrounded the planet. 18 patrol ships were positioned in defensive formations. Against 300 Krell warships, it looked hopeless, but appearances could be deceiving. "Admiral, they're broadcasting," the communications officer said. "Put it on screen," Nari ordered. War Leader Krell's face appeared. The massive insect creature's mandibles clicked with what might have been satisfaction. "Humans of Earth, this is your final chance. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and we will make examples of your cities. You have 1 hour to decide." Ari touched her communicator. "This is Admiral Nari of Earth Defense Force. We gave you our answer already. It was no. It's still no. If you want our world, come and take it." She cut the transmission before Krell could respond. "That was dramatic," Tay said with a slight smile. "They like drama," Nari replied. "Let's give them a show. Activate Plan Mongoose."
Mongoose.
They had named it after an animal that fought snakes, small, fast, and vicious. That was how Earth would fight today. The hour passed slowly. The Krell fleet moved closer, their formation perfect and organized. They had done this before, probably hundreds of times. Orbital bombardment of primitive species was routine for them. When the hour ended, the Krell fleet opened fire. Energy beams lanced across space toward Earth's orbital platforms. The first shots hit, and 3 platforms exploded in brilliant flashes of light. On the news channels being broadcast across Earth, people screamed. It looked like the end, but it wasn't. "Lieutenant Sora, execute Phase 1, Nari ordered. Lieutenant Sora was commanding a small group of patrol ships on the far side of Earth's moon. She smiled grimly and activated her weapon systems. Firing missiles. All tubes. What looked like primitive rockets launched from the patrol ships. Slow compared to energy weapons. Simple kinetic missiles that the Krell sensors barely registered as threats. The Krell fleet didn't even bother to shoot them down. That was their first mistake. The missiles reached the Krell ships and detonated. But these weren't normal explosions. Each missile contained a miniature nuclear warhead that pumped energy into a plasma core. The resulting blast was like a miniature sun appearing in space. 5 Krell warships vanished in the plasma fires. The energy overloaded their shields, which were designed to deflect energy beams, not nuclear plasma burning at millions of degrees. What was that? War Leader Krell's voice roared over the communication channels. What weapon did they use? Engineer Minho was monitoring the battle from one of Earth's defense platforms. He laughed as he saw the confusion in the Krell fleet. They banned nuclear weapons 10,000 years ago because they're too unpredictable, too messy. But we never signed that treaty. Admiral Nari ordered. Activate the mass drivers. What the Krell thought were simple defense platforms suddenly came to life in a new way. They weren't just platforms. They were massive railguns, electromagnetic catapults designed to throw metal at incredible speeds. Tungsten rods, each one weighing a ton, launched from the platforms. They accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. At those velocities, they didn't need explosives. Pure kinetic energy was enough. The rods punched through Krell's ships like bullets through paper. Shields designed to deflect energy weapons did nothing against solid matter moving so fast it might as well have been a beam of light. 10 more. Krell ships exploded or went dark. Their hulls breached, their systems failing. They're using kinetic weapons. A Krell officer shouted over their communication channels, which Earth's cyber warfare team had hacked into. Primitive solid matter projectiles. Primitives who are kicking your ass, Minho muttered as he loaded another rod into his mass driver. The Krell fleet broke formation, scattering to avoid the railgun fire. That was their second mistake. Scattered ships were vulnerable ships. Commander Tay deployed the drones, Admiral Nari said. Tay grinned. Deploying. Let's see how they handle this. Small objects that looked like asteroids suddenly activated around the Krell fleet. They weren't asteroids. They were drones, hundreds of them, each packed with explosives, and a simple AI programmed with one instruction. Find a target and explode. The drones swarmed the Krell ships. The aliens tried to shoot them down, but there were too many, and the drones were fast. Dodging and weaving with erratic flight patterns, when the first drone hit a Krell warship and detonated, it blew a hole in the hull. When 50 drones hit the same ship, the warship broke apart completely. The battle became chaos. The organized Krell fleet was now fighting on all sides against weapons they had never expected. Nuclear plasma, kinetic railguns, suicide drones, and Earth's patrol ships were using hit-and-run tactics, attacking from unexpected angles and then running before the Krell could respond. This is not how civilized species fight. War leader Krell roared in frustration. We're not civilized, Lieutenant Sora said over an open channel. We're human. We fight dirty. 3 hours into the battle, the Krell had lost 70 ships. Earth had lost 23 platforms and 31 patrol vessels. The numbers weren't good for humanity, but they were much better than anyone expected. Then Minho activated his surprise. Remember those cyber attacks we launched at the start of the battle? He said over the command channel. They're about to pay off. Inside the Krell ship's computer systems, Earth's viruses had been quietly spreading. Now they activated. Half the Krell fleet suddenly lost their targeting systems. Their weapons were still working, but they couldn't aim properly. Now, Admiral Neri shouted. All remaining ships, full assault. Earth's patrol vessels charged forward, weapons blazing. They focused on the blinded Krell ships, hitting them again and again. More Krell warships exploded or went dark. War leader Krell screamed in rage. Retreat. All ships retreat to the outer system. Regroup and purge your computer systems. The Krell fleet pulled back, their formations shattered, their confidence broken. They had come to Earth expecting an easy victory. Instead, it walked into a nightmare of unconventional weapons and tactics they had never encountered. When the count was done, Krell had lost 120 ships, nearly 40% of their fleet. Earth had lost 37 platforms and 48 patrol vessels. The losses hurt, but humanity had survived. In the command center, people were cheering. On Earth, cities erupted in celebration. They had done it. They had fought the Galactic Council's warriors and won, but Admiral Nari wasn't celebrating. She was watching the sensors, seeing the Krell fleet regrouping at the edge of the solar system. They'll be back, she said quietly. This was just round 1. Let them come, Commander Tay said. We still have tricks they haven't seen. And we're already building more weapons, Engineer Minho added. Give us a month, and we'll have twice as many platforms. Admiral Nari nodded. The battle was over, but the war wasn't. The Krell would return with more ships, better prepared. But something had changed. Earth had proven that the Council could be fought, that humanity wouldn't submit icily. Send a message to the Krell fleet, Nari ordered. Tell them Earth is not for sale, not for tribute, not for conquest. If they want our world, they'll pay for it in blood. Their blood. The message transmitted. In the Krell fleet, war leader Krell received it and roared in fury. He had never been defeated before. No primitive species had ever hurt his fleet like this. But as he looked at his damaged ships and counted his dead warriors, he realized something. The humans were right. Earth wasn't going to be easy to take. Maybe it wasn't worth the cost. And across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, beings watched the broadcast of the battle. The Galactic Council had transmitted it to show humanity being crushed. Instead, they showed humanity fighting back. The impossible had happened. The humans said no. And when the Council sent ships to punish them, the humans won. The galaxy was watching. And the galaxy was learning that maybe, just maybe, the Council could be resisted after all. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was not going well. The Vreth High Chancellor stood at the center of the chamber, its crystalline form flickering with what might have been anger or fear. Around it, representatives from 847 species were shouting, arguing, and demanding answers. How did this happen? A delegate from the aquatic Delphian species demanded. The Krell fleet is supposed to be unstoppable. You said this would be simple. War Leader Krell stood in his section, his armor dented and scorched from the battle. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. The humans fight without honor. They use weapons we banned millennia ago. Nuclear devices, kinetic bombardment, cyber warfare. They have no respect for the civilized rules of combat. Maybe those rules only work when both sides agree to them, a voice said from the back of the chamber. Everyone turned to look. The speaker was a member of the clustermind species, group intelligence made up of thousands of small insect-like creatures. They rarely spoke in council sessions. What do you mean by that? The Chancellor demanded. I mean the humans never agreed to our rules, the clustermind said. Why would they fight by regulations they never signed? We assumed they would because everyone always has. But what if that's been our mistake all along? The chamber went quiet. It was a dangerous thought, and everyone knew it. On Earth, President Do Yen was addressing a global audience. Every screen on the planet showed his face. Every person was listening. Today we proved something important, Do Yen said. We proved that strength isn't just about having the biggest weapons. It's about having the will to stand up for what's right. The Galactic Council thought we would surrender because we were scared. But fear without courage is just surrender. We chose courage. In the audience was Dr. Hannah, who had been analyzing the data from the battle. She stood up when Do Yan called on her. I've been studying the communications we intercepted from the Council, Hannah said. 23 different species have sent us secret messages in the last 3 days. They want to know how we did it, how we said no. They're asking questions they've never asked before. What kind of questions? Someone in the audience asked questions like, why do we pay tribute? Why can't we develop new weapons? Why does the Council get to make all the decisions? Hannah smiled. They're waking up. We showed them it's possible to resist. Ambassador Yuna was in her office when the first official contact came. It wasn't from the Council. It was from the Delphian homeworld, transmitted on a secret frequency. We are representatives of the Delphian resistance, the message said. The face on the screen was aquatic, with large eyes and flowing fins. Your species has done what we only dreamed of. We want to meet with you. We want to learn. Over the next week, similar messages arrived from 5 more species. The bird-like Chiroptera, the crystalline geodes, the gaseous nebulans, the plant-based verdants, the cybernetic synthetics. All of them had resistance movements. All of them had been too afraid to act. Until now, they're not afraid anymore, Yuna reported to President Doyoon. We showed them it can be done. Back at the Galactic Council, the Chancellor was losing control. A vote had been called to authorize a full-scale invasion of Earth. 50 species voted yes, but 200 voted no, and the rest abstained, which had never happened before. The Chancellor shouted. For 50,000 years, this council has maintained order. We cannot allow one primitive species to destroy that. Maybe the order was the problem, the cluster mind said. They had become surprisingly vocal. Maybe we've been maintaining stability by suppressing freedom. The humans have shown us what we've become. Bullies taking tribute and calling it protection. A geode representative stood up, its crystalline body glowing. I propose we negotiate with Earth. not as superiors to inferiors. As equals, the chamber erupted again. The idea of negotiating with humans as equals was revolutionary. And terrifying to those in power, War Leader Krell slammed his appendage on his console. We should send the entire Krell armada, 10,000 ships, reduce Earth to rubble, and enslave the survivors as an example. And lose how many more ships? A Delphian representative asked quietly. The humans destroyed 40% of your fleet. How many will they destroy if you bring 10,000? And what happens when other species see that even the mighty Krell can be beaten? Krell had no answer to that. On Earth, Commander Tay was working with Engineer Minho to design new defenses. The Krell would come back eventually. Earth needed to be ready. We won the battle, Tay said. But if the Council really wanted to, they could overwhelm us with numbers. We need allies. We're getting them, Minho said, showing him the latest intelligence reports. 6 species have secretly agreed to share technology with us. They're doing it behind the Council's back. The Verdants are sending us biological weapon designs. The Synthetics are giving us AI systems. The Nebulans are teaching us how to weaponize stellar plasma. Why are they helping us? Tay asked. Because we're doing what they wish they could do, Minho said simply. We're their champions now, whether we want it to be or not. 3 weeks after the battle, Captain Jiho received a strange message. It was from a location he didn't recognize, using an encryption method he'd never seen. When his team decoded it, they found an invitation. 34 species wanted to meet with Earth representatives. In secret, far from Council space, it's a trap, Lieutenant Quan said immediately. Maybe Jiho agreed. Or maybe it's the start of something bigger. President Do Yen approved the mission. Jiho took his ship, along with Ambassador Yuna and Dr. Hannah, to the coordinates provided. What they found shocked them. A massive station, hidden in an asteroid field, filled with ships from dozens of different species. When they docked, they were greeted by representatives from civilizations they'd only read about. All of them had one thing in common. They wanted freedom from the Council. A Delphian named Sula spoke first. We've been planning resistance for 100 years, but we were too afraid to act. Then you came along. You said no. You fought. You won. You showed us it could be done. A Chiroptera named Kree chirped in agreement. The Council's power is based on fear and habit. Everyone pays tribute because everyone always has. But you broke the pattern. Now we can break it too. What are you proposing? Yuna asked. An alliance, Sula said. Not based on tribute or domination. Based on mutual support and freedom. Species who want to control their own destiny, make their own choices, develop their own technology. Ilahoa will fight this, Jiho warned. Kree chirped. We're 34 species now. If we stand together, we're stronger than any Council fleet. Dr. Hannah looked at the data streaming across her tablet. This is incredible. Together, we represent 15% of the galaxy's military power and 20% of its industrial capacity. The Council needs us more than we need them. The meeting lasted 3 days. By the end, they had drafted what they called the Free Species Compact. Every species would maintain sovereignty over their own worlds. No tribute payments, no forced technology restrictions, just cooperation, trade, and mutual defense. When news of the compact leaked to the Council, the Chancellor called another emergency session. But this time, things were different. More than 200 species sent messages saying they wanted to hear more about the compact. Some were thinking about joining. This is a rebellion, the Chancellor said, its crystalline form turning dark with rage. No, the cluster mind corrected. It's an evolution. The galaxy is changing. The humans started it, but we're all part of it now. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, the Galactic Council was falling apart. 100 species had formally joined the Free Species Compact. 300 more were negotiating. The Council still existed, but its power was broken. Species were developing new technologies again. Innovation that had been suppressed for millennia was flowering across the galaxy. President Doyan stood on the observation deck of Earth's new orbital station and looked at the stars. Ships from a dozen different species were in orbit, not as conquerors, but as friends and allies. Ambassador Yuna joined him. The council sent another message. They want to negotiate. They're calling it a partnership now instead of tribute.
Ow.
What did you tell them? Doyen asked. I told them we'd think about it, Yuna said with a smile. As equals, not as subjects. The galaxy is changing so fast, Doyen said. A year ago we were alone. Now we're part of something bigger. We started it with one word, Yuna said. No. The simplest word. But it changed everything. Commander Tay and Engineer Minho were working on the new defensive platforms. But they weren't just weapons anymore. They were also research stations, trading posts, and meeting places for the free species. Do you think the Council will try to attack again? Minho asked. Maybe, Tay said, but if they do, they won't be fighting just Earth. They'll be fighting everyone who wants to be free. And that's a fight even the Council can't win. Far across the galaxy, in the Council chamber, the Vreth High Chancellor stood alone. Most of the seats were empty now. The representatives had stopped coming. The species had stopped listening. The Chancellor had ruled for 10,000 years. It had seen empires rise and fall, but it had never seen anything like this. One species. One word. And the entire galactic order had collapsed.